Ladies and gentlemen, welcome your faces back. In this video, we're going to talk about how you add decimals. We're going to go over 4 problems together, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of a challenge and try 4 problems on your own, and we're going to see if you can go 4 for 4. So that's going to happen a little bit later on in the video, but let's go ahead and go over 4 problems together to make sure that you can add decimals. Now, for number 1, you first want to determine which number is larger, because the larger number we always want to write first. So looking at number 1, I know 34 is larger than 19. So I'm going to write 34 in 198 thousandths first. And notice how when I write this here, I'm spacing out my numbers far enough so I can easily determine what place value is which, right? I don't know how many times I see students write their numbers so crammed together that it's very hard to determine what they're actually writing or which place value is which. So make sure that you space your numbers far enough out that you don't end up making the same mistake. Okay, let's go ahead and add these here. Now, biggest thing is you want to make sure that you line up your decimal points. So I'm going to put my decimal point in first here. Notice how they're nice and lined up with one another. And now let's put our place values in as well. So we have a 4 in the tens place, a 9 in the ones place, and a 1 in the tens place. And before we go ahead and add these, step number 2 tells us to annex zeros. Now, annexing is simply just a fancy term for adding in zeros. So if you look behind each decimal point, the one decimal point has 3 numbers behind it, whereas the other one only has 1. So to fix that, we annex zeros in there to fill the empty space. Okay? Before I add, I want to drop my decimal point down into my final answer. Again, notice how they're nice and lined up. And now we can just simply add them. So 8 plus 0 is 8. 9 plus 0 is 9. 1 plus 4 is 5. Us dropping our decimal point down into our final answer, well, that's where it's going to actually be. Some people don't put their decimal down there before adding, and they end up making a mistake and putting it in the wrong spot, right? So 4 plus 9 is going to give us 13. Carry our 1. 1 plus 3 plus 1 is going to give us 5. And our final answer is 53 and 598 thousandths. Okay, let's move on to number 2. Which one's larger? Well, 43 is, so I'm going to write that one first. So 43 and 659 thousandths. Again, spacing out my numbers here. Let's go ahead and line up our decimal points. We have a 4 in the ones, 1 in the tens, 9 in the tenths, 1 in the hundredths. Step number 2 tells us that we need to annex 0, so let's add in a 0 here to fill that empty space. Drop my decimal point down into my final answer, and now we can go ahead and add them. So 9 plus 0 is 9, 5 plus 1 is 6, 6 plus 9 is 15, carry our 1. We get 8 and a 5 for a final answer of 58 and 569 thousandths. Okay, moving on to number 3, again, determining which one is larger here. So we got 52 first. So we have 52 and 25 hundredths. Plus, lining up our decimal points, we have a 1 in the tenths, and we got 20 out front. Again, before we go ahead and add these, we want to annex a 0 in here to fill that empty space, drop our decimal point down into our final answer, and now we can go ahead and add them. So we get 5, 3 decimal points there for us already, 2, and a 7 for a final answer of 72 and 35 hundredths. Okay, for number 4, our larger one is 20, so that's going to be written first. So we have 20 and 3 tenths. Plus, again, lining up our decimal points to start. We have a 9 out front. Then we have 351 thousandths behind our decimal point. Looks like we're going to have to annex 2 zeros behind this 3. Drop our decimal point down, and now we can go ahead and add them. So we get 1, 5, 6 decimal points there, 9, and 2. Final answer, we get 29 and 651 thousandths. And there's our 4 problems that we're going to do together. But now I want you to make sure that you can do this yourself. So we have 4 problems I want you to try on your own here, aka the practice session. I want to see if you can go 4 for 4. So go grab a line sheet of paper, notebook, write on your leg. It really doesn't matter, right? But try these out. See if you can get the correct answer for 5 through 8, right? So pause the video, try them out, and let's see if you can go 4 for 4. I'm assuming at this point you've paused the video, you've tried out 5 through 8, and now let's see if you can prove to me that you know how to add decimals. So for number 5, Which one's larger? Well, 62 is, so you should have written that one first. So we have 62 and 165 thousandths plus, make sure to line up your decimal points. We got 13 out front and a 4 behind the decimal point. It looks like we are annexing 2 zeros here, dropping our decimal point into our final answer, and now we can simply go ahead and add these. So we get 5, 6, 5 decimal points there for us, 5 and 7. So final answer is 75 and 565 thousandths. Hopefully you got number 5 right. If you did, very nice job. Now let's move on to number 6. Which one's larger? 44. That one's first. Okay, again, spacing out my numbers nicely so I know which place values which. Let's go ahead and line up our decimal points. Then we got a 15 out front, 12 behind it, and it looks like we're going to have to annex 1 0 in there, drop our decimal point down, and now we can add them. So we get 3, 9, 2 decimal point there for us, 9, 5. Final answer, 59 and 293 thousandths. Hopefully you're 2 for 2. If you are, very, very nice job. Got 2 left though. So number 7, 72 is larger. So we have 72 and 85 hundredths plus, line up our decimal points. We got 12 out front, a 1, and then we have to, looks like, annex 1 0, drop our decimal point down, and now let's go ahead and add them. We get 5, 9, 4, 8, and final answer 84 and 95 hundredths. And finally, the very last one, which one's larger? 10 is, so we're going to write that first. So we got 10 and 4 tenths. Lining up our decimal points. Okay, we got a 4 out front. Looks like we have 952 thousandths behind our decimal point. Before I add, I want to make sure to annex 2 zeros in there to fill that empty space. And now we can go ahead and add them up. We got 2, 5, 13, carry our 1, 5, 1. Final answer, 15 and 352 thousandths. If you went 4 for 4 in the practice session, let me know in the comments below. Leave a like on the video. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch, and hopefully after watching this, you're able to add decimals just fine. Ace your next quiz or test, and until next time, see you guys later.